Wherever you're listening in the world, it's a pleasure to welcome you to IsraelCast, the podcast powered by Jewish National Fund USA, your voice in Israel. I'm Stephen Shalowitz, reminding you that for 120 years, Jewish National Fund USA has been the premier philanthropic movement for the land and people of Israel. While best known for planting trees in Israel, JNF USA contributes to Israeli life in so many ways, including community development in the Negev and the Galilee, preservation of heritage sites, supporting people with disabilities, and connecting high school and college students to Israel. To learn more and to see how you can contribute, visit jnf.org. Once again, jnf.org. Hope you got that. All right, as for this episode, our featured guest is someone whom I've been wanting to meet for the longest time. He's Yoseph Haddad, the founder and CEO of Together, Vouch For Each Other. It's an interfaith nonprofit which aims to bridge the Arab sector of Israeli society with Israeli society as a whole. Yusef himself is an Arab Israeli, born in Haifa, grew up in Nazareth, and served in the IDF, where he was critically wounded. His life's journey has been remarkable and inspirational, and we're going to explore it now as Yoseph Haddad joins us via Zoom on the line from his home in Nazareth. Welcome aboard IsraelCast, Yusef.
Thank you very much for having me.
Well, listen, it's lovely to speak with you, and there's so many bases that we have to cover. And before we talk about your organization, fantastic group that you founded, and your experience in the IDF, can you take us back to your childhood, what it was like growing up? You were born in Haifa, as I said, but you grew up in Nazareth. What was that experience like for you, Yusef?
Well, actually, it's funny because when people ask me why I'm doing what I'm doing today, I have to go to my childhood. And to answer that question, because of my childhood, I am doing what I'm doing today. And yes, I was born in Haifa and grew up in Nazareth, but only my parents moved to Nazareth. Most of my family stayed in Haifa, and Haifa is the biggest mixed city in Israel, where you have Jews, you have Arabs, Christians, Muslims, and Druze living in this amazing city. And I remember that I used to finish my homework, after school. And then there's a bus station literally next to our house. So I would take the bus, go directly to Haifa, to Kiryat Eliezer neighborhood. And over there was this football stadium. And then we used to, next to it, to play football there in the neighborhood court. And we played together, Jews and Arabs. And we didn't really care, football or soccer. That's what made us together, So we didn't really care that this guy is an Arab, this guy is a Jew, and we found ourselves just, being human beings. The common thing between us is our love to soccer, which, by the way, I have to be honest, we call it here football. You guys call football something else. You play it with your hands. I have no idea why, but this is a different debate. We'll call it soccer for now. So eventually we grew up like this, and this friendship became out of just the soccer love, and we started to hang out together more, visit each other's at holidays, whether it's Christmas or Eid al-Adha or Passover. So I saw what is the potential of the Israeli society. Now, from already 14, 15, I was very much into politics and whatever going on here in the Middle East and Israel. So I already, knew that the reality is very different from what I experience in my society, my small society, let's say that with my friends. Yet, and despite that fact, I really saw the potential of the Israeli society. I saw that Arabs and Jews can be together. I saw that Muslims, Christians, Druze, and Jews, if we just meet each other, know each other, then a lot of the barriers will just collapse. So eventually, that's how I become an integral part of the Israeli society.
Do you think you were alone in thinking that, Yusef?
So the thing is, no, because with me, there were Muslims and Christians, other Christians, and Jews and Druze. So we were a huge group. So I wasn't alone in that thinking. It might be not a mainstream thinking in the general Israeli society, especially back then. But telling you that I was alone, not at all. I had my friends with me. That's what actually made me do what I'm doing today because I saw that there is potential. It's just not me. There's others. So because of that fact, I was able actually to, say that's what I want to do. I want to bridge gaps between Arabs and Jews.
Right. And we're going to talk about the work that you're doing in just a moment. I mean, I think at the end of the day, when you were playing football out there, all you cared about was if someone was a good football player.
Yeah, like when we played football, and we wanted to pick, who's in your team. You don't say like, wait, this is Jew. I don't want it in my team. This is an Arab. Maybe I want to. Or when we're playing together, I'm gonna pass the ball to a Jew or to an Arab. We really didn't care about that. And when we went out of the football field, it just became natural that we didn't look at each other as Arabs and Jews. And by the way, beside the fact that we had a common thing, which is football, we had another common thing, and that we were all Israelis. So this is actually, and because of that realization, when I reached the age of 18, I decided to volunteer to the army because for me, the army is, the Israeli army is the IDF. It's not the JDF. It's an Israeli defense force. It's not a Jewish defense force. And just lately, we saw when Hamas launched rockets towards Israel, their rockets doesn't discriminate by faith or religion. And unfortunately, Arab Israelis were killed by Hamas rockets, a father and a daughter, in a neighborhood near Lud, the mixed city Lud. And not only that, there's a lot of examples that I can give you that unfortunately the terrorist doesn't really discriminate between Arabs and Jews. So if you're an Israeli, you are a target for terrorism, and this is one of the things why I wanted to serve my society, both the Arabs and the Jews, the Israeli society. And that's why I decided to volunteer for the IDF.
I was going to go there with you and talk about your IDF experience. And I really loved that comment that you had made in your TED Talk that it is the IDF, it's not the JDF, right? And I think that that is something that we all should really keep in mind. Because you did join the IDF, you did not have to, because we should share with our listeners that Arab Israelis are not required. It's not compulsory for them to join the IDF, but you wanted to defend the country because you feel very Israeli. I got that right, correct?
Exactly. I feel very Israeli, and I wanted to protect my society. My society is, look, in my vision, when I say that my society, I wish in the future I wouldn't have to explain myself by saying, yes, both the Jews and the Arabs. And when I just say the society, my society, everyone will understand the Israeli society. But for now, because I want to educate and I want people to understand better what I mean, I have to explain it. When I say my society, it's the Israeli society, both Arabs and Jews. It's crazy because just a month and a half before my service was supposed to start, a female suicide bomber came to the Maxim restaurant in Haifa, and she blew up the restaurant, ended up killing 21 innocent people, Arabs and Jews. And I'm just a month and a half before my service. And then it struck me, and you understand that, yeah, you're going there to defend all of the Israeli society. Mm-hmm. And you're going to do it because terrorism doesn't care. You're Israeli, you are a target. Nobody cares if you're an Arab or if you're a Jew in that restaurant.
Right.
So this was something very important for me.
Right. And we should share with our listeners that Arabs make up 1/5 of Israeli society.
Yes, they were, well, in numbers, even better. So in Israel, we have 9 million, the population is 9 million, 2 million Israeli Arabs, 2 million Israeli Arabs, 1.6 million Muslims, 145,000 Christians, 145,000 Druze, and 130,000 Bedouin Muslims, which mostly we'll see them in the south of Israel.
Yeah, Yusef, what was the response amongst your family and friends then when you told them that you wanted to join the IDF?
I think that one of the most amazing things that I experienced with my family is that they always got my back and they supported me. Obviously, my mom, knowing the fact that I'm going to be a warrior, a fighter in the Golani Brigade, this is something that any mom, it doesn't matter if she's an Arab or a Jew, Mom is mom, and she is worried, and eventually I was very badly injured. So she kind of like had a feeling maybe, but beside that worry, all of my family members supported me, and I was very lucky and I am very lucky to have such an amazing family.
Fabulous. Now, you were accepted into the Golani Brigade. That must have been very rewarding, must have been very tough to get into. Congratulations on that. Share with our listeners that might not be familiar with the brigade what it's all about. And interestingly, you were an Arab commander in the IDF overseeing Jewish soldiers. So I want you also to talk about that dynamic as well, Yusef.
A lot of people ask me why I chose the Golani Brigade. Why did I want it to be accepted in that? And basically, there's two reasons. One, because it is the best brigade in the IDF, and anyone who says different, total lie. So that's one. And the second thing, it's because only crazy people accepted the Golani, and I'm a little bit crazy. So this is mainly, but for the audience, Golani is one of the most prestigious brigades, fighter brigades in the IDF. A lot of complicated and very important missions carried out and done by Golani Brigade. For me, I knew that I wanted to serve my country on the highest level, and that's why I decided really to go and be within this brigade. I have also to share with you before the fact that I become a commander, that the minute that I step foot in that family, because I literally became family, I didn't feel any discrimination. I didn't feel anything being different, and just make sure to understand that in 2003, when I started my service, I was among the few people who actually volunteered to the IDF from the Arab Society. By the way, today, more than 1,000 fighters there is in the IDF from the Arab Society, and more than 505,000 yearly volunteer for the national service, most of them coming from the Muslim community, by the way, which means within 10 years, we will see tens of thousands of Arab serving the Israeli society and country. But before that, I would like just to say that the fact that I was a commander in the IDF, the fact that I was able to become a commander and then commanded a Jewish soldier, I think this is the best answer to any person who would come and say, Israel is an apartheid country. So next time you hear that, you just say, hey, I just listened to a podcast with Stephen and heard an Arab Israeli who was a commander over Jewish soldiers, the IDF. So cut the bull. Sorry. I hope I'm allowed to say that.
We're going to bleep that one out, Yusef, or at least the second part of that word. So no worries. We'll keep the first part so people know what you're talking about.
All right.
Well, I think that is worth underscoring, the number of Arabs that are in the IDF, right? And the number of Arabs that are volunteering in the IDF, because again, they look at it as the IDF and they want to be protected as well. And they want to contribute to society. So I think that point needs indeed to be underscored. I want to fast forward then, if you don't mind, if you can take us back to that moment. And I know it's rather painful, but I know you've spoken about it. So that's why I'm asking about it. If you can take us back to that moment in 2006 during the Second Lebanon War, where your life changed and would really never be the same.
So indeed, it's a very painful memory, but it is at the same time something that shaped my personality, which made me even stronger today. I'm going to actually go back a few days before we entered Lebanon to share with you an exceptional story that happened to me. One of my friends from Nazareth, an Arab from Nazareth, he called me once he knew that I'm going to Lebanon. And he asked me, Yusef, how do you feel going into Lebanon and fighting your Arab brothers? And then I answered them, I'm not going to fight my Arab brothers. I'm going to fight Hezbollah, which is the terrorist organization. So leave the conversation. I'll go back to that in a minute. So with this conversation, I entered Lebanon, and and obviously the fight and the war began.
Mhm.
Uh, During that war, I lost three commanders, seven friends, and two soldiers. One of my commanders was Wa'ik Klein, a hero that decided to jump on a grenade to save his own crew. I really just want you to imagine what's happening. A terrorist just throw a grenade, and he sees the grenade, and he needs to take a decision in less than a second. If he doesn't jump on that grenade, him and all of his crew either will be injured badly or killed, or he's jumping on that grenade and he's saving his crew, but obviously he will not survive. And he decided to jump on that grenade. Uh, when we're talking about sacrifice and we talk about leadership and heroes, I think all of this is in Roy Klein, in my commander. As a role model, I see him, and it's just huge. Go check him if you never heard of that name. Go check his story. There's videos about him, articles. Should definitely hear and listen about this Israeli hero. As for me, just about 4 days before ceasefire, the 10th of August 2006, we were carrying out a rescue mission, and we ended up, finishing that mission when the sun came, and it was a daylight. We were going back to our shelter. Suddenly, Hezbollah spotted us, and they decided to launch an anti-tank missile towards me. It's a Coronate missile. Usually, you use that missile to destroy tank, but they decided to launch that missile literally on me. I was very lucky because the missile itself just bypassed me and hit a wall that was very close to me. I can tell you that if it hit me, I'd probably be in 1,000 pieces. But because of the fact that it missed me, hit a wall, and from the explosion and flew in the air, it ended up lying on my belly. I immediately understood that I was injured. Didn't really realize how bad I was injured until I turned on my back and realized that my foot was cut off. And Steven, if you're asking, so what a person do when he realized that his foot was cut off? Well, basically, you start shouting, my foot was cut off, my foot was cut off. That's the first thing you do. But I was very lucky. My friends, soldiers, evacuated me very fast, give me the first treatment. And I think within an hour, I was on the way back to Israel, safe, but with a long process to recovery.
And we should add that your foot was reattached through the miracle of science, and I'm sure prayer as well.
We should add that my foot was reattached, and we should also add that the doctors and the nurses that took care of me, they were Arabs and Jews. And this is the most amazing thing. You go to the hospital, you will see an Arab doctor treating a Jewish patient. You will see a Jewish doctor treating an Arab patient. I mean, a lot of people just think that Israel is this or that, when the reality is literally different, couldn't be more different from what you see on the social media and on the news.
And I want to go there right now, what it's like to live as an Arab and Israeli society. But I just want to add the, no pun intended, footnote that now you can do everything with that foot, right? I mean, you can play soccer, football, as you would say, and life goes on. So that really was a miracle of science and prayer and healing. And really, congratulations to the entire team for putting you back together.
Definitely. Obviously, there is pains. It's part of a huge trauma. But eventually, if I look at it in a wider perspective, the fact that I'm walking, the fact that I'm playing football, I am very lucky, and I thank God for that, and I thank doctors and everyone who treated me.
Yeah. Well, by the way, Yusef, what goes through your mind then on the anniversary every year of that day?
It's my second birthday. It's my second birthday. Everyone knows the 10th of August. I was born on the 3rd of September, 85. But
I'm born on the 8th of September. So fellow Virgo here.
Virgo. But everyone who knows me knows that my second birthday is the 10th of August. And I celebrate that as getting my life back, because uh, here's a here's a small story from there that I didn't share with you guys. When I was just to like give you a hint of how close I was to death. Uh, so when they evacuated me and put me in a shelter, I was on a stretcher waiting for evacuation, or at least getting the first treatment. So with our unit, there was a reserved on duty doctor, which means he's not a regular soldier. He is a doctor with tons of experience, and he was on the reserve power, so he came and joined our forces. And I was very lucky because of his experience and his first treatment that allowed then the doctors to have an easier process in the surgery and everything. But the thing is, as much as experience he was, that much of lack of tact he had. So I'm lying in the stretcher, suffocating from my own blood, barely can feel anything. I didn't lose conscience, despite the fact that I was badly injured. I never lost conscience. And I go, and then I hear the doctor goes on the communication, and he's like, so the situation is very simple. Either you come in the next half an hour, evacuate him, and he'll survive, or come in a few hours and just take the body in the tank with us. And I'm like hearing this, my eyes, I can't speak anything, but my eyes just like, hey dude, I'm here. At least go say that in a different place. So this was like just to give you the idea that I literally felt that I was going to die. But thanks for my soldiers, my friends, commanders. The evacuation eventually went. Hey, I'm here. So yeah.
The helicopter came, thank God, right?
The helicopter came, and the helicopter came, but my friends, they needed to evacuate me to the point where the helicopter came. And by the way, during that evacuation, Hezbollah didn't stop. They knew that they would try to evacuate me. So they launched RPG, bullets, whatever you want. So it was crazy.
Earlier on, you said that you joined the Golani Brigade family. I think those were your words. Are you still close with the men that you served with?
So out of a decision that, everybody speak about the physical injury, but there's also something that you can see, which is the mental injury. I lost a lot of friends, commanders, soldiers. I was badly injured myself. And being focused on recovering mentally and being focused on recovering physically, this is the two different aspects of your injury. And in each one, you have to give a, not 100%, 500% in order to recover, especially when you're like rock bottom and you need to go like from there and starting building your life. One of the choices that I took is actually to disconnect in order for me, it was my choice, in order for me both to heal physically and mentally. I'm very happy to tell you that the fact in the last few years I became, a public figure, which people more and more, notice and know me, especially the fact that I'm also in the Israeli media, on TV. So I've seen a lot of my soldiers and my friends reaching out after a lot of years. And now it's much easier for me as well, to accept that and to talk. And it's kind of a nice to, make that family reunion again, because you do miss that family. So this is an amazing thing. But if you go back to exactly just a few, the first few moments after that, it was totally a decision just to stay out in order for me to manage to recover. And happily, and I thank God and I thank doctors, and obviously the fact that I really also wanted to heal, wanted to move on, wanted to go and have life again. Because unfortunately, I have a lot of friends who didn't manage to pass that stage, and they still stuck, and they're still feeling not good, both physically and mentally. Obviously, from here, I send my wishes and the best recovery from them, even after those years. Hopefully, that our state is will never abandon them, because every soldier who fought for the country should get all his rights, and just be there for them, for each and every one of them.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Yusef. Really, truly appreciate that. Want to pivot to something we just started talking about a moment ago. And then I want to get into the organization which you founded, which congratulations on that. And personal news as well on your side. Recently announced some very exciting news there. If you can talk just in general, broad brushstroke terms, what it is really like living as an Arab Israeli in Israel, and some of the myths that you really want to bust when it comes to that. You've shared a few already, but again, if you can elaborate.
Yeah, well, let's start from the beginning. The beginning is that not everything is perfect in Israel. And in fact, is that anyone who will come and say that everything is bad is lying. And the fact that someone will say Israel is perfect is also lying. Is there racism? Unfortunately, there is. But on the other hand, Stephen, show me one society that you can say that there's no racism in it. Unfortunately, I wish with all my heart that this is not the situation. Not only that, unfortunately, we have racism between Jews and Jews, and between Arabs and Arabs, not just between Arabs and Jews. But the optimistic message is that the racism is not from the majority of the Israeli society. It's not from the majority of the Jews, and not from the majority of the Arabs. The simple fact is that the racism is from the extreme minority in both society. The problem is that they are huge waiting for social medias and TV networks, news. That's what brings the rating. That's what brings the buzz. So it's very easy to see a Jew saying death to Arabs, yes, and death to Muhammad, and trying to I don't know what, spit on an Arab. And it's very easy to see an Arab raising the Palestinian flag in Israel and chanting that from the river to the sea, Palestine will be free. And that will make the buzz. That will do the job. But the simple fact,
I was going to say, as they say, if it bleeds, it leads.
Yep, exactly. And unfortunately, that's exactly the right thing to describe the situation. The problem is for those people that me and my organization are doing as much as effort to debunk whatever they say. And I'm gonna just give you a spoiler here. We understood that we are in the right way, doing the right thing, when we managed to actually make those two extreme groups from far away from each other literally collaborate against us. When we saw that, we understand that they're threatened, that they are afraid, because the fact that my existence, it makes it a problem for them, because for the extremists in the Jewish side, the fact that I'm an Arab, sharing stories of Arab Israelis wanting to be an integral part of Israel, want to serve the country, then I'm literally demolishing every agenda they say that all the Arabs are terrorists and all the Arabs want to kill the Jews. And from the other side, when I prove time after time to the Arab society that the absolute majority of the Jewish society, not racist, and they are dying that the Arab be part of the Israeli society, then they have a problem, because they keep saying that the Jews are racist. So doing that, it makes it problematic for them. And as I said, it's not the fact that I do acknowledge that there is problems, but the problems is created by those minorities. And unfortunately, also, if I have to criticize ourselves, because we are silent. The problem is that we are silent because we are afraid. Those groups are very violent. They are minority, very minority. But the fact is that they are violent. They threat. I've been threatened like countless times every day. I open my phone, I see a threat message, a hate message. And their threats are serious.
How do you deal with that? I'll tell you, we had Noah Tishby, who I think you know, and she just wrote her fantastic book. We had her as a previous guest here on IsraelCast. We just interviewed her for our monthly Jewish National Fund reading series. And she said that she just doesn't even respond to the hate.
Yeah.
She just lets
So,
it go. So what do you do, and what do you recommend people
so
do that are
it's a
listening
bit
to this?
different. It's a bit different. It's a bit different. There is not to respond to a hateful messages. I'm here in Israel. I'm here in Nazareth, the biggest Arabic city. I'm here in my Arab society, and I'm here in the Israeli society. The threats are real. It's not just a hateful message just to, curse you or just to send you hateful comments. For that, obviously, I don't respond. The fact that you don't respond, it's that makes them more angry, which is that's the right thing to do. The problem is with messages that they send you that they know exactly where you live and they describe where you live, and then they will tell you that we're going to come and kill you, or that we're going to come and threaten your life and or your family life. And this is not just for me. This is for anyone who wants to reveal the truth or to say and talk about Israel or to be part of the Israeli society or to bridge gaps between Jews and Arabs. And by the way, it's from both extreme minorities, from both sides.
And so what do you
That's
do
the
then?
problem.
So Yusuf, what do you do then about it?
Listen, uh, when the threat is critical, obviously I turn to the police. Um, Most of the time, I'm just careful. I watch my back. I try to notice as much as possible of what's going on. For now, thank God. For now, nothing serious, happened or turned into the threat itself didn't turn into something real. But obviously, I can't say, oh, nothing will happen. I have to stay focused. I am focused. And if this is something that concrete that will happen, I immediately turn to the police, and I trust the police to do their job. I'm not going to take an action for myself. I mean, we have a country with laws, and we have police. I do have some criticism towards our police, but eventually we do have a good police. We need it to be an excellent, but we have a good police, and when it needed, I think I will reach to the Israeli police to take care of that. Hopefully, it will stay only in messages. And by the way, you asked me how do I go through it, why I'm keeping what I'm doing. One, it's because I really believe in what I'm doing. The second thing, for every hateful message I get 40 messages of love and support. That's the equation. One hate, 40 amazing messages. So I think it's an easy win for us, right?
Indeed.
41.
Right. We've referenced several times the organization which you founded, together, Vouch for Each Other. So this is really a good time for you to share its mission, its message. Go ahead and let's talk about what you've been doing, again, to build the bridges.
Together, Vouch for Each Other is an Arab-Israeli organization that was founded by Arab Israelis, young Arab Israelis, women and men, Christians, Muslims, Druze, Bedouin, and we have Jews as well, because we want the tapestry of the Israeli society, all of us together, showing everyone that the simple fact is that we can be together. More than that, listen to this. In our team, there is a Jewish Orthodox woman. She's part of the social media team, and it's funny because when we have a staff meeting and we go eat in a restaurant, we are literally, as Arab organization, as Arabs, trying to find a kosher restaurant. I mean, this is crazy because you need to understand, it's sort of like a joke. Arab looking for kosher restaurant. That already starts like this. If you see an Arab looking for it, it's not a joke, it's a reality, it's happening. But this amazing story just tells you everything about our organization, how it's fantastic. This is how you bridge gaps. You've already heard me that the mission is to bridge gaps between Jews and Arabs and to bring the Arab society closer to the Israeli society. You've already heard me saying about the national service. So in Israel, you have the IDF, you serve as a soldier in the IDF, but you also can serve the country in the national service. National service, it's the police, fire departments, as paramedics and medics, in the hospitals, special needs schools, and etc. We are absolutely doing our best and advocating for serving and volunteering in the national service. I believe that this is the key for the Israeli society in terms of the Arab society. Our motto is to serve the country and at the same time serving your community, because you can actually serve your country and your community in your community, in those things that I said, the hospitals and police departments and fire departments and all that. This is actually the ticket. And I'm happy to really tell you, as I said before, the statistics, 10 years ago, only 200 Israeli Arabs volunteered to the national service. 10 years later, today, we stand on yearly, more than 5,500 Israeli Arabs yearly serve. So as I said, just make the math. 10 years from now, 5,000 more plus 5,000, that's tens of thousands of Arabs. That's crazy. That's huge.
And Yusef, what do you attribute that change to?
Well, basically, what we're trying to do as much as possible is going on and speak about it. Speak about the importance of serving the country, of serving our society. We're meeting with young Israeli Arabs just about the age of 17 and 18 before finishing high school and going into the world. Give them the advantage of that, why it's important, how we can, because of that, bridge gaps. And I'm happy to tell you that you see the numbers are increasing and increasing. And more than that, I've shared on my social media a lot of stories that happens from volunteers that volunteered in the national service. Just a few weeks ago, two firefighters, an Arab Muslim woman and an Arab Muslim man, they got actually the highest rank from the president of Israel for their service to the country. It was an amazing and emotional event also for me to see something like that. Great award for them. They did an amazing job. I wrote about it in English, by the way, so you can go and check it out online as well. There's tons of stories that I shared about this. And not only that, eventually our organization, the huge cause is to also treat our own problems. We are not a political organization, but the fact is that we are who we are because of the fact that our political leaders, the Arab Israeli political leaders, unfortunately are not doing enough for us. They're screaming Gaza and Jenin and not Nazareth and Rahat and Lud and Haifa. And we want first to take care of ourselves. A better education, better infrastructures, equal budgets. We want to take care of the violence that we have here, illegal weapons. Those things we want to fight for. And that's what we're trying as much as possible to do. I'm happy to tell you that even the fact that we are not a political organization, a lot of politicians from all the political map, right, left, or center, they are willing to cooperate with us in order to make our society better. And one last thing that I would like to say about our organization is, what I said, it was all the things, all of those missions are interior, are here in the Israeli society. And we're working so hard that everything is okay outside, but it's not okay outside. That's why, as a minority organization, with Arabs from all sectors, we also represent and fight for Israel. And we talk about Israel around the world and just refuting all the lies and twisting the facts about Israel. As I said, we never lie. We do say that there's problems. And when someone criticizes Israel and the criticism is legit, we address that and we acknowledge that and we actually tell how we can solve it. But when someone lies, when someone twists the facts, we are there to prove them wrong. We are there to show the facts, to say the truth. And I'm happy to tell you that we are doing an amazing job. If people come and just send message saying that we managed to change their minds, then you know what? That's an amazing news for us.
Listen, Yusef, there's a lot to unpack there. And I want to go back to something that you said about how on the political stage, that you're really looking internally to make the lives of Arab Israelis better, because you had actually penned a piece and you pointed to a survey that was conducted in recent years showing that issues the Arab society cares about the most are internal social problems, violence and crime, housing, education, infrastructure. And you point out that in every single survey, the Palestinian conflict ranks
Correct.
at the bottom of the list. And I want you just real briefly to address that, and then we'll move on.
It is very simple. we've seen the surveys, it's less than 5%, some of them 4.5%, even some of them 2.5%, that they address that as the most critical issue is the Palestinian-Israeli conflict, which means the majority of the 2 million Israeli Arabs, they first of all want to treat the problems within what's happening here in Israel. Yet our leaders are not doing that. Now you ask me, so why we vote for them again and again? Unfortunately, because we don't have any other alternative. This is also a criticism for us that we didn't create alternative. But I can give you a spoiler. We're working on it. It's a process, but it's a slow process. It's a 70-year of history, and they have advantage on us 70 years where they put all the roots inside. When you try to shift that and change that, it takes time. I'm optimistic because the wheels are moving forward slowly, but they are moving forward. And this alternative eventually will come. The other criticism is that the fact is that the Jewish parties didn't really manage to be an alternative for the Arab-Israeli voices. And this is a huge mistake from their sides. I've spoken to several of politicians in different political parties from left, center, and right, and they admitted to me that they did a huge mistake. And the third reason is because the Arab political parties, time after time, when there is election, they just, their campaign is good. They play good. They promise and promise and promise. Yet again, they fail to deliver. By the way, take, for example, the Joint List. It's an Arab-Israeli political party that in the last Knesset, they were on 15 seats. Because they didn't deliver, because they failed, they immediately crushed to 6 seats only. The Islamic political party that promised to work for the Israeli Arab society and not for the Palestinians, they got 4 seats, and even Christians voted for them. This is historic. This is. I don't think people understand. Christian Arabs voted for Islamic party because they promised to work for the Arab Israelis in Israel and not for the Palestinians. And by the way, that's why the Islamic party is the biggest political Arab party in Israel. Despite the fact that Joint List is with 6 seats, you need to understand that the Joint List is assembled by 3 different political parties. So just listen carefully to what I'm saying here. An Islamic movement did a campaign saying that we're only going to take care of the Arabs in Israel. And we're not afraid to sit down in the coalition. And they are on the coalition, by the way. That's why Christians also voted for them. Now, just imagine what would happen if there is, a political party that will reach both Jews and Arabs from a place where to bridge gaps and to work together as Israelis. I'm telling you, this is something that in the future will happen.
Right. And that's what you're working towards with your organization, right? Is this notion of bringing everybody together.
Definitely.
Yeah. I want to move on because we're time isn't necessarily on our side. There's still so much more ground to cover. We
can always do part 2.
I hope we do. Inshallah, we'll do part 2 very, very quickly. Listen, you've spoken around the world, Yusef, about Israel. And I'm wondering, when you leave Israel's borders, what's been the response when you've taken the stage?
Listen, I can give you 2 examples. One in South Africa and one in the United States at Harvard University. So let's start with the Harvard University. I think you've heard that story before. I went to speak an event, and I asked the event organizer not to mention that I'm an Israeli Arab. I just say that I'm from Israel. Don't even say my name. And I start talking about, Israel. I did that because I had a purpose. I wanted something to happen. And indeed, 25, 30 minutes later, that thing happened. While I was talking, one of the students there raised his hand and he said, I have to ask you something. And even a comment. I said, go ahead. And he goes, I've been listening to you for the last half an hour. I expected that from any Israeli Jew to say what you say. So with my most Arabic accent, I said to him, my name is Yoseph Haddad, and I'm an Israeli Arab. Total silence. They didn't know how to uh, understand or to get what's happening. Because for them, all the information that I gave them, it didn't came from a Jew. It came from an Arab. So for them, it was shock. And I remember that after that, one of my two of the students that were there, one from Dubai and one from Gaza, they came to me and they said, "Listen, you surprised us big time." And the information that I revealed there, they wasn't aware of it. They wasn't aware of it because, again, the social media. But I'll give you an example, okay? Before I go to the South Africa story, have you heard about Samer Hajjah? Professor Samer Hajjah. Well, he is actually the chairman of the biggest bank in Israel, and he's a Muslim from the village of Taif. The biggest bank in Israel, Bank Leumi, he is the chairman of that bank, a Muslim. Have you heard about Bibas Natr? He's a Muslim, and he's also the captain of the football team, the Israeli football team. Have you heard about Professor Misad Barhoum? He is an Arab, Israeli, and he is the head of the one of the most important hospitals in the north. And this is not it. There's a lot of examples. I just give you like few. I can give you about the member of Knesset who are in the Knesset getting paid by the taxpayer, Jews and Arabs. And you have today two ministers, a Muslim and a Druze, Arabs, ministers in Israel, an Islamic party in the coalition. People have no idea that that's happening in Israel. And more than that, and I want to, and it's important for me to go there, despite the fact that our time is short. But I will give that extra time for this because this is important for me. And you know what? It will connect because we're talking about South Africa and we're talking about apartheid. So I'm going to tell you the story about South Africa, and then I have to address this apartheid definition. In South Africa, when I came to there, and I've seen in my eyes and in the museums what the Black community in South Africa, went through and suffered due to an apartheid regime. And I saw that suffer, and I saw the reality of being an apartheid country in those museums. And the first thought that came to my mind is comparing the Israeli-Palestinian conflict to the South African apartheid. It's completely doing injustice to the Black community who suffered from real apartheid in South Africa. And it's shameful that people are actually trying to use that definition to lower it and to make it like this. And I even had the opportunity to say that in front of a Black community in South Africa, in front of people who actually were older people that even had felt and was part of it, and seeing that they are nodding their head with acceptance and agreeing with what I said. At the same time, it made me feel, kind of released a little bit of tension. And at the same time, I felt sad. I felt sad because they're using this definition completely to just do something, unjustified, injustice towards this word. So saying that, one of the things that happened there is I had a debate with the leader of the BDS organization over there, Muhammad Desai, and the debate was live on TV. One of the things that I use when I debate anti-Israelis, especially those who, calling to boycott Israel, and especially those who just lie, is I attack back. I'm not apologetic. I'm not going to wait for him to finish and then politely answer. No, that's not me. I never curse. I never use violence. not verbally and not physically, but I attack back. And once he lied about something, I didn't give him the chance to continue. I immediately attack back. But once I do that, I have to have and back my things with facts. So I immediately pulled that fact on TV. You can see it, by the way. It was on TV. It's on the social media. It's on the net. You can look for it. Yoseph Haddad in South Africa. And once you give that fact, you can do anything. And the third thing that I want to give as an advice in order for you to win every debate is exactly what I said before about the criticism, which means when someone criticizes Israel and it's legit, don't lie and don't be scared of it and don't try to minimize it. Answer it. Give them a good answer. We have a way to solve those problems. Okay? So those three things. And because of that, by the way, Stephen, a day later, I was invited by the EFF political party. For those who know a little bit about the South African politics, the EFF political party is their leaders called the South African Hitler. I was called to speak in front of them because they saw something they never saw on TV. The result, at the end of my lecture, I had a picture with them holding the Israeli flag. So this is a change that we do. Now, last thing, apartheid, because I want to debunk this word once and for all. And when we talk about apartheid, there's three different things. There's apartheid that you speak about the Israeli Arabs, apartheid in Gaza, and apartheid in the West Bank. All of them is wrong. The Israeli Arabs here, we have problems. That's not apartheid. We have equal rights. We can vote. We have people in the Knesset, in the Israeli parliament. People can have houses and buy lands, and we don't have to be in separate buses, and doctors and Arab doctors treating Jewish patients, and the opposite. We have high tech and more. It doesn't mean that we don't have a problems, but it's not a problem. As for Gaza, Israel don't have any control of 1 inch of Gaza. And anyone who talks about seizure, you forget that Gaza also has a border with Egypt. And Egypt themselves closed that border because of those extreme Islamic terrorism. So before you come criticize Israel, criticize maybe Egypt. Not only that, Israel actually doing the opposite. Israel is allowing humanitarian aid. Israel is allowing Gazan to come take treatment inside of the Israeli hospitals. Ismail Haniyeh himself, his daughter was treated and his relative was treated in the Israeli hospitals. And talking about the last war, the last battle, we didn't fight the Palestinians. We fought Hamas, the terrorist organization. In fact, Hamas killed their own people. 1 of every 7 rockets hit their own people, the rockets that Hamas launched. So don't tell me and they come lecture me about apartheid. And as for the West Bank, don't get from my sentence saying that I think it should be 1 state. No, I support 2-state solution with the fact that Israel maintain with full security for the borders and for our people, for our society. But if you go ask any Palestinians today, where he rather to be right now and under which authority? Everyone, and I have a video also for that. I told you, anything I will say, Stephen, it is backed up with facts. And you can go, I have videos that I interviewed Palestinians myself from the West Bank saying to me, we have a corrupted authority. We wish we are under the Israeli authority. I'm not saying that the solution is 1 state. Again, understand that. But you should listen to the reality and see the reality that's going on, not just shouting apartheid about apartheid. Because Palestinians have their own authority, they have their own health. Yet, even the fact that after the Oslo Accords, and Israel doesn't have any responsibility from health to other things, we're the one who are responsible as well to vaccinate the Palestinians in East Jerusalem and in the West Bank. So give me a break. Give me a break. When you use apartheid, I just really want everyone to understand. Once you use apartheid in Israel, it's either you don't know what is the definition of apartheid and you are dumb, or you're just lying. So which one you choose, to be a liar or dumb?
Yusef, on that note, we're going to leave it right there. I do want to have you back because there is so much still more to talk about, whether it's the Arab community in Israel or even personally, your upcoming nuptials. So congratulations on your upcoming wedding. We do
Thank
want
you
to
very
wish
much.
you and your future bride all the very best, but really we want to thank you so much for joining us here on IsraelCast, and we're going to see you definitely for a part 2. How's that?
Perfect. It was amazing, and I'd love to be in part 2, obviously. Thank you very much for listening to me. It's an honor.
All right. And we'll have info about Yusef on the show notes page of our website, jnf.org/IsraelCast. And as a reminder, we do release new episodes of IsraelCast every other Wednesday. And just so you never miss an episode, subscribe to us wherever you get your podcasts. Simply search for IsraelCast. It's that easy. And don't forget to rate and review us to make it easier for more people around the world to find us. Or you can always enjoy the show by visiting us at our website. Once again, hope you got it. It's jnf.org/IsraelCast. Now, it takes a whole moshav to put IsraelCast together. And for that, we thank Vivian Grossman, Alicia Yaffe, Dara Shapiro, and Kevin Solka. Our editors are Jay Rothman and James Quesada from Miratone Studios in the very heart of New York City. And the music that you hear at the top and tail of the program is titled My Eden. It's by the very talented Rafi Malkiel from his album Water on the Tzaddik label. IsraelCast is powered by Jewish National Fund USA, your voice in Israel. For more information about JNF USA, visit jnf.org. And if you'd like to write to us with story ideas or just to say howdy, we'd all love to hear from you. So do email us at israelcast@jnf.org. Meantime, I'm Stephen Shalowitz, thanking you for tuning in and looking forward to having you join us on future episodes of IsraelCast.